So the grid is waiting to be cleared of everyone but the cars and the drivers for race 3 of the 2011 championship. The opening 250 Ks of the Clipsal 500. 78 laps it is. Race duration, 130 minutes plus 1 lap. We won't be bothered by any weather coming our way, but it will be hot. Make no mistake about that. Inside the cockpit, some 50-odd degrees. It will wear them out. It will grind them down. And this circuit is responsible for that. It's brutal.
It's worth having a look at it now in some detail, Matty. It's got an average speed of just over 140-odd kilometres an hour. Top speed on the run down to that turn 8 that we speak a lot about, and that's 245 kilometres an hour. Turn 9, the hairpin, the slowest corner on the track, just 60 kilometres an hour. And those numbers that Mark Larkin was referring to earlier are the numbers that we're going to pay particular attention to. Those fuel burn, in simple terms, it's probably, you're right, Scapey, just recycling some paperwork next to me, around about 3 litres a lap or better is the magic number that they're looking to work on. Here's the Fuso starting grid.
And you'll find Garth Tander on pole position. 3rd time he's had pole here alongside another 3-time pole sitter, Jamie Whincup. But Whincup had to settle for 2nd today after the top 10 shootout. There's Lee Holdsworth and Rick Kelly in the Jack Daniels Racing. A very good start to the year. He's won here before. He knows how to do it. There's our new dad, Frosty, alongside the young Kiwi, Shane Van Gisbergen. Position 7, Will Davison against James Courtney. So the defending series champ will start from 8th. He's 12th in the championship. Jason Bright for Team BOC and Paul Dumbrell all featured in the top 10 shootout. Now we go to Craig Lowndes. He's won here before. In fact, he's the inaugural Clipsal winner back in 1999. Stevie Johnson, 17 out of 22 times he's finished in the top 10 in terms of races. Steve Owen and Jonathan Webb, full-time main gamers. Tim Slade and Todd Kelly, who's celebrating his 150th championship event. Jason Bargwanna for Team BOC alongside Caruso. And if you weren't with us earlier, a great day for Team BOC because Jason Richards ran in the Fujitsu races earlier and won the race. It was one great moment. David Reynolds for Stratco Racing. Stratco's a local sponsor, so he'll be looking to make some headlines today. He's got Russell Ingall alongside him. There's Alex Davison, 2nd in the championship. Came here with a really bad case of the flu, and he's going to do it tough this afternoon. James Moffat, out of all of these guys in the field, is the only guy who's making his main game Clipsal V8 Supercar debut. And Dean Fiore and Carl Reindler round up the 28 spots. And Carl, I reckon, put this beautifully into perspective, this place. He said, attacking the Clipsal is like doing weights in a sauna on the treadmill, having a boxer throw punches at you. Sums it up nicely. And I can also tell you that Carl and Warren Luff will start out of pit lane to try and save fuel and not get caught up down at turn 1 because it's pretty much guaranteed that there'll be some shenanigans down there.
And the second part of that could end up being the most important part. The not getting caught up in it could prove to be really valuable later on. The fuel question is certainly one that we will harp on because it's going to be an interesting one. By rights, it really ought to be a 3-stop race. So everybody's going to do everything in their power to try and get away from that. On board here in the Super Cheap Auto car with Russell Ingall. Here we are with James Moffat, Jim Beam Racing, downstairs in the garage with him just a little earlier, and his famous dad Alan is here watching. Jason Bright looking to try and make it 4 podium in a row. Will Davison in a wild ride for him so far today, carrying the Trading Post Racing camera on board. James Courtney, slowly but surely starting to get a handle on how to make the Toll Holden Racing Team car work a little better. This is turn 11, so they're just in behind the pit complex now. Steve Owen has actually found the wall a couple of times this weekend. Just a little brush the back of the car at turn 4, and I don't think he quite got to the wall, in fact, at turn 11, but he was in the gravel down there at one point. That track temp and air temp continues to rise down there. Some data just through a few moments ago from Dunlop. They're big numbers. It's going to be a hot afternoon for the boys.
And Big Pond Sport will have you covered if you need to leave our race coverage today. Just take your Big Pond Telstra NextG mobile with you and away you go. You won't miss a thing of our coverage. So they're slotting into their grid boxes.
And we just saw there Mark Winterbottom. Mark Beretta was talking to him on board there with Lee Holdsworth. But Mark already knows how tough this is going to be. And when you're in the first few laps of this race, you use a huge amount of energy. There's a lot of anxiety, a lot of effort to get through the first few laps. And if you're caught, you know, 6th, 7th, 8th or 9th in the field, it's very, very tough going. Here we go.
The two guys at the front of the grid have dominated this race over the last 4 years. Tander versus Whincup. Behind them, it's Holdsworth and Rick Kelly. It's a really even start and a great start from Garth Tander. The pole sitter takes the advantage early. Stephen Johnson is going to go 3 wide into turn 1. Whoa! Johnson alongside Dumbrell. They got through there though.
Great start, Rick Kelly. Really good start.
Nice opportunistic move there from Paul Dumbrell up the inside at 4, but a great jump from Garth Tander. Very nice work. Jamie just couldn't get it away. His initial flinch looked okay, but then he wasn't able to go on with it, so he's dropped some spots now and he's under pressure from Winterbottom.
So round turn 7. Along the back straight they go, down to turn 8, 245 kilometres. Watch this. That's a whisker away from disaster. Turn 9.
Now, just as we suspected, we've got to keep one eye on all of this down here at turn 9, because of the sensitivity of the very highly accurate electronic sensor that's in the road down at turn 2. Anybody that climbs the curb there too far to the right-hand side of the road runs the risk of a breach. Now, already 6 drivers in the field as a result of all that motocross action down there have got a yellow mark against their name. Dumbrell, Bright, Steve Owen, Slade, Bargwana, D'Alberto. And the first breach is considered a warning. The second breach is another warning. By the time you do it 3 times, out comes the bad sportsmanship flag. If you do it a 4th time, you'll make a nice quiet tour down the pit lane.
And then if you do it again after that, there's no more warnings. You're back in pit lane. Well, let's ride on board here with Mark Winterbottom. He's got a view of Jamie Whincup, who's in 4th. Remember, Whincup started 2nd. Takes it through turn 8. Down here is where you'll see a lot of passing, a lot of movement. And already a move. That was Will Davison. Got on the inside of Shane van Gisbergen, and James Courtney wants to have a look at the Giz as well. So good move from Will. He moves up to 6th.
So Whincup off the front row of the grid back to 4th. Tander up to 2nd. Winterbottom and Van Gisbergen, we just saw them battling before, but Davison has now jumped up behind his teammate. James Courtney 8th. Dumbrell 9th, Steve Johnson 10th. So it's a very mixed up and very fast start to this race. They're really trying hard. Have a look at the jump, the little jump, and a really good start there from Tander.
The initial flinch of Whincup was very good. He went with it. He was right on cue, but then he just couldn't go on with it, so dropped those couple of spots.
And it was also highlighted by a great start from Rick Kelly.
Yes.
So it made Jamie's look worse.
Absolutely.
I mean, this isn't a bad start from Jamie Whincup, but those around him had excellent starts.
And Garth Tander, hardly any wheel spin, and there's Rick Kelly straight by. That's a great start.
It's a little bit hard to hear them, but I'm not sure whether it was either a little bit of clutch slip or it might have just been wheel spin, but it certainly didn't go anywhere near where he wanted it to.
This is where Will got on the inside of Shane van Gisbergen at turn 9. And look at Courtney pull up alongside van Gisbergen as well. Oh, someone touch it back there.
It was a good move to pull that early in the race because you don't get many opportunities. You can spend an hour behind somebody if you don't get it done early.
Whincup up to 3rd. So he's rounded up Lee Holdsworth just then.
And Rick Kelly's speed looks good, guys. He has not let Tander get away. You have a look as they come onto the straight here. He's right behind Garth Tander.
Well, he was quicker on the last lap than Garth, and he was quicker to the 2nd sector. He's only a couple of car lengths behind. So,
fuel is good as well.
And in fact, the 10th quicker on that lap. So straight away, even at this point in the race, people are talking about driving to a fuel number on the steering wheel.
Car 1, James Courtney has hit the wall at turn 8 and has to come in. Just come over the radio.
Alex Davison, Tony D'Alberto in.
He's hit the wall too. That's a fence. That's Alex Davison. Left-hand rear damage. Mark Larkham's on the scene there. He'll see the damage on the left-hand rear of that car.
Mark Wickerbottom's been highlighted for going through the curbing at turn 2, so this will explain down at 8. Oh.
That's a biggie. That's Dumbrell.
Oh.
That's hit hard. So that's serious damage to that car, and I think Johnson also got it. So we'll just wait for the Courtney incident because they've reported that he will have to come in. But at the moment, it's still going around. It's got a damage, it's got a mark on the back corner of it, but he may try to stay out. It's obviously hasn't hurt the Watts linkage.
Now, as things have normalised quickly, Whincup is showing great speed. Faster to the second sector on this lap, and the fastest lap of the race at 23.5. And this fresh air that Tander's enjoying at the moment as they look at Alex Davison's car will be a great spot for him to be, but I don't think he would have been expecting this pressure from Rick early in the race.
Well, Alistair McVeigh said to Garth Tander, try to build a gap. So,
and that was in the first lap.
Absolutely. And when you can't build a gap, and you look in the mirror and the guy's got the car full, he's in the mirror and he's into it. He is really trying hard.
And the hard part about all this is that you're trying to race, you're trying to make lap time, but at the same time, there's a number on the steering wheel or on the dashboard that you're driving to in terms of fuel economy. I was surprised to hear so many people talking about fuel numbers only a couple of laps into the race. On board here with Jamie Whincup looking at the front left Dunlop control tyre, the harder of the two tyres that we have. Whincup continues to make great pace. Fastest through the first split, with a crushing load on that front left tyre. That was through turn 8. Now compression under brakes into turn 9. Big tearing load through the hairpin. And then the front left goes on holidays through turn 10. Waves to the crowd. This is 11 past the pits, a bit of curb along the way, grabs a bit of paint. Car's sliding there, a little bit more curb again, and watch the load come on through 13. And this is the final corner now. Now wait for this ride. Down pit straight, and have a look at the pounding that the front of the car cops when he negotiates 1, 2 and 3.
Oh. You would not want to be a left-hand front tyre, would you?
And he's just done the quickest car 1 false start. And that'll be an extra 10 seconds added to his stop when James makes his stop. So a penalty for James Courtney in the Toll Holden Racing Team car, as this man is the fastest on the road at the moment.
Well, HRT's Garth Tander is our race leader here, but this battle of second and third is roaring along. Rick Kelly has his hands full with Jamie Whincup.
Now, Whincup is really charging here, and he was just urged by Mark Dutton. It's a hot day. Don't spend too long under the back of Rick's car, so get on with it. Especially a lot of the cars are running very lean at the moment. Oh, here's a big moment down at the final corner, and that looks pretty ugly for Tim Slade. Well out in the green stuff there. He's had to take evasive action to not end up drilling the back of another car. Now, there's a series of drivers that have got marks against their name down at turn 1. And just further explaining that remark of mine earlier, after the start, right-hand mirror off Jamie's car. When they did climb the curb at the start, the computer then updates it, and Jamie making a very decisive move straight down the inside. Surgical job, whack, done, second, turn 9. Nice work.
Good pass.
Yeah, so all the blokes that basically climbed over the curb, you don't want to do too much of that. That was about as close as he dared to being in the wall. Then there's no issue with them climbing over the curb in that first instance, but it automatically records. But now there's actually a bunch of guys who do have infringements. And they are Winterbottom, Courtney, Reynolds, Rory, and Alex Davison, who's stuck out here with that damage on the car after the earlier contact.
Yeah, now you can just see the Irwin car on screen there. He's just exited the pits from the damage with the wall. Well, the majority of it was the watch linkage at the back of the car, which is the device that holds the diff laterally in the car in position. It actually bent one of the mounts quite badly in the fixture to that. So they've actually fixed it. They didn't get a chance to wheel line it. I don't expect it'll be perfect, but it should be good enough to do the job.
I went to have a chat to him between qualifying and the race and went to shake hands, and he said, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Yeah, he's been so unwell. His teammate Shane Van Gisbergen's been unwell, and he described how he's been feeling in the last couple of days. It's pretty horrid. So clearly, when you come into the race meeting feeling that poorly, he's got virtually no recollection of anything he did yesterday. He's not been able to sleep. He's terrible dehydration, and then these sorts of issues arise.
And here's his brother doing a pretty solid job inside the top 10. Whincup, after passing Rick Kelly, now has his eyes set on Garth Tander because Jamie Whincup's just done the fastest split time to the second sector on this lap. He already owns the fastest lap of the race. So he's now making amends for that start that put him from second to fourth in the blink of an eye.
He won't be happy about it, though, because what it does, Matt, and Mark touched on this point just early in the race, or right at the very beginning, there's a huge amount of energy expended in your first stint. It's remarkable in your second and subsequent stints in long races how much easier it gets later in the day. It's basically your mental approach. But you torture yourself, and so now what Jamie's done is he's made the first segment of the race really hard work. Not by choice, just one of those things. It wasn't a super good start, but now he's paying the price of having to work very, very hard. He's got part of the job done, and he's done another best lap on a 1:23.2 on that last lap. He's inside 1 second from Garth Tander, but it's the long way around the job.
It certainly is. On board now with Mark Winterbottom, and this is this run up to turn 8. Just have a listen for the engine note. So a little lift off the throttle, a little brake, and a nice, this is the down changes now from 6th gear back to 2nd gear. In the race they'll use second here, sometimes they use first in qualifying, so it's 2nd to 3rd.
I think as the track's evolved this weekend for these guys, they've just lost the thread slightly. When he jumped out in practice as 3 and 4, he was immediately position 2 in both and just tiny fractions away from Jamie Whincup. But as we got into qualifying and then the shootout, and maybe even now in the race, they're probably just trying to find the sweet spot in the window with that car. They're not quite there at the moment. You can see it in their faces when you go to the garage.
I agree. So just have a look again through here, the way that they just try to treat the car nicely to keep the flow up. And this circuit, although it's very aggressive, bumps and curbs and all the things that we've referred to already, those bumps there at Wakefield Street are probably the worst on the whole of the circuit. What you've got to try to do is get into a rhythm, and what Neil was talking about before in this first part of the race, when all the drama's on, the starts just happen, you're trying to position yourself properly, you've got to get a bit of flow going, you've got to get some momentum so it doesn't knock you around. It's Fabian Coulthard into the back of Russell Ingall at turn 1, across turn 2. Ingall won't be happy with that bump at that spot, and look at this. This is Whincup, who's made a major amount of ground on Tander.
And he's done that on the back of fastest lap times. Simple as that. He's just had his head down by himself. He's just done a 1:23.26 to better his own fastest lap time. Now, the gap's irrelevant. Now he's racing against Tander to try and get position.
And Garth's car is sliding, even coming off turn 11 there, is sliding a little bit more than he'd like to the second sector on this very lap. Jamie was 0.2 of a second faster than Garth, so the pressure's now right on him. Garth can't drive in the rhythm that he ideally wants to. He's got to go out of the comfort zone. He has to make a decision. Does he fight and probably burn beyond his fuel numbers, or does he let him go? It's a really tough choice.
Absolutely. And this is one of the passing spots. Right here is a spot. You've got to be up a little closer than that, and you've got to be able to get it done. You've got to be able to get right alongside the car in front for that spot to work. What he'll try to do now is set him up. This is turn 6. We've seen some great passing manoeuvres, crisscross manoeuvres here over the years. This is turn 7. A very important run up to turn 8, and following turn 8 is the spot to make the pass. So just watch how he goes about this. He needs to come through turn 8 close enough to make the pass at the next corner. Have a listen.
He'll be thinking about the hairpin.
And this is the spot. He might be a little bit too far back. Yeah, just a fraction too far back.
And Garth's just smartened himself up to make sure that there's no wastage at all under brakes. I mean, he's got that thing standing on its nose down there at the moment. There's nothing relaxed about his rhythm down there, so he's not conceding at all.
And here's the other spot.
And isn't it interesting, as you watch the body language of these two cars, I think it's very ominous. When you look at Whincup's car, he's placing it wherever he wants. He's moving around side to side, where Garth is strictly to the racing line. Now, when you can do that with a car at that speed, that says you've got a little in reserve.
Very true, Larko. You've picked it very well, because Garth's basically doing the best he can do at the moment to drive the car as fast as he can. The other guy can move the car around and harass him at that. So the speed that he's shown to catch Garth is one thing. Now what he's got to do, and Mark Dutton said it before, don't spend too much time under the back of this car. So you've got to organise yourself to be close enough in 2 or 3 of these critical passing spots. And again, we make reference to this being a really critical run now, out of turn 7, up to turn 8. And then be really committed through the fast turn 8 section to position yourself for the hairpin. Here we go, it's on again. Oh, he got the inside curb, and look how much he lost.
Well, he's going to carry the momentum through here, and Whincup will get the job done.
Nice job, considering that it wasn't the ideal run through turn 8, and we didn't see any evidence of brake locking from Jamie into the hairpin then. So to actually drag it, oh, seriously, he scares me when he does that.
He's playing that wider than most.
To be able to take it off the racing line and diagonal to the apex at turn 9, not lock the brake and make the pass, no paint scratch, good work. And
very mature from Garth Tander. He knew he was gone. Yeah. Garth didn't try to squeeze him, didn't try to do anything weird. It's very early days.
Isn't it amazing how some circuits come to some drivers? The last 7 races at the Clipsal 500 have been won by either Garth Tander, Jamie Whincup or Rick Kelly. 1, 2 and 3 on the circuit. Whincup has the lead. So we're on lap 17, and Craig Lowndes from Team Vodafone has entered pit lane, first to come in.
So the strategy has started, Matt.
A bit of traffic out pit lane exit, just keep pushing on and use these tyres. 17 laps complete.
So Jeremy Moore just giving Craig a little synopsis of how he's got to look after it, but also get on with using these tyres in this next segment. This is all about getting clear track. And this is the pass that we saw Jamie Whincup down the inside of Garth Tander at turn 9. Very well executed. On board now. Come from a long way back. He was very close to hitting the fence at turn 8. Got it done. Garth gave him room. Very professional effort from both guys.
And especially considering that he touched the curb on the inside, it's amazing that he was able to get that done. But nice work for Jamie Whincup. It puts him in the lead of the race, gives him a chance to set his own rhythm, control his own fuel. This is an angry pack.
It's halfway down the field. You're riding with Steve Owen. He's position 14.
And race control are looking at his car for damage to the right front at the moment. Sorry, they're looking at Jonathan Webb's car, I should say, for damage to the right front.
Jonathan's in 12th spot.
And Jamie, by the way, has just bolted. Like, he's nearly 2 seconds down the road already from Garth.
And the last lap, Neil, was a 23.48 for Whincup versus a 24.13. So basically 0.8 of a second faster than Garth Tander to be almost, as you said, 2 seconds in front of car 2.
Mark Dutton just confirmed with Jamie Whincup then that at that pace, the high 23 that you spoke of, the fuel's good. So it's not as though he's burning too much fuel to achieve that.
There's going to be ugliness in here. Russell's already going to square up with Fabian Coulthard at some point because there was a little bump into turn 1.
So you've got that picked.
Yeah. And then there's some ugliness here, but Greg Murphy won't be too bad with his teammate Todd Kelly. But Steve Owen is holding Todd up a little bit, so there'll be some frustration in the first segment of this race. This is a great shot. This is from the rear at turn 8. Have a look how much road they use. It's an amazing corner.
Steve Owen drove here in the V8 Supercar event back in 2007. He's won 4 Fujitsu races on this circuit. Todd Kelly, of course, won in 2007 on the Saturday, the same weekend that his brother won the following day.
There are 4 drivers already that have got 2 marks against their name for turn 2 infringements. Jason Bargwanna, and make that 5. It's like an auction. James Courtney, Jason Bargwanna, Davey Reynolds, Dean Fiore, Tony Delberto. So they're running out of lives. But as by my account, there's still a few laps to go. Look at that one on the bottom. We're on lap 19 of 78. So they want to be a bit careful. And that's the thing about having that very accurate system down there, where it was once a judge of fact, no reflection on anybody that would have been doing great volunteer work down there, but now it's sudden death. You're either nailed or you're not.
Hey, Scafie, I can hear Neil already getting really excited about that little line down there to the thing. You just strap him to his chair, mate, because when the first bloke gets pinged, mate, all hell's going to break loose up in the box.
I totally agree. And he thinks it's funny. He's laughing because it's lap 19 of 78.
Has he noticed the races on?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm onto it. Jason Bargwanna now 3 strikes, so he's got no more lives. So it's like watching the stock market jump up and down. Now, Whincup has gone fast again to the second sector of 49.4 on this lap. He's got a 2.3 second margin, and he's just marching away right at the moment.
It's interesting watching this overhead shot of Steve Owen pulling away from Todd Kelly, because coming out of turn 7 there, it looked as though Kelly was close enough to run him down, but obviously Steve Owen's got some good straight line pace. And check that out for Whincup. I mean,
that's beautiful work.
Well,
when
we
you see
say it
that
time and
level
time again, and that's what he does. When you go back at the end of the weekend and say, how did he skip so far ahead? Well, he often puts back-to-back-to-back fastest laps together. This time, Fabian Coulthard goes, I'm not buying into that, Russell. I've had my say in this argument. Yeah, round you go.
Yeah, so that level of consistency means good car.
That was big, and that's the great demonstration of being behind another car. Greg Murphy had to follow Todd Kelly because that's all you can see is the guy in front. So when he was wide, Greg was wide.
Todd doesn't mind doing that down there. He did it in practice a couple of times. You watch this. So Steve Owen comes through, and then Todd, take off time. Murph followed his team boss. No, James Courtney into the fence.
That's on the exit of turn 7.
It's a strange place.
It is a very strange, but remember we said that he hit the fence early, so maybe there's some damage.
Deep too, he's pretty deep on the front
It
leg.
would be hard to do that by yourself. I think he might have had a little bit of assistance with that one.
Maybe he's just lost it over that wide curb, so he may well, I mean, you're speculating, but he may well have come around too wide. And
he's just checking there for steering.
Something broke in the front.
there you go.
You want to be really careful now because I've done this. I've driven straight up there and turned the wheel and gone straight in the fence. You've got to be very, very careful when you've got damage. So he's gone up there very steadily. You can see that something's broken on the left-hand front. And he's gone into the fence at turn 7. So damage for our champion very early. 20 laps in to 78 laps at the Clipsal 500. Jason Bargwanna in pit lane. He's been doing a good job through the weekend.
Just come rear on the bias.
Bargwanna, as Neil said, has got 3 strikes against his name. And here's Courtney coming in. He'll be battling to get into pit lane. It's very, very hard to get the car turned here.
Well, we've seen that before too over the years. You come around here and you just can't turn right.
It's a 3-point turn.
Yep.
It's hard to get reverse in these cars sometimes. Good job, he's got reverse. And he'll motor down.
Straight as you would have pit stop. You're not going to get into the garage, so just straight up. And then we're going to go jacket, okay?
So that's what Rob Crawford's saying, let's go jacket, meaning they're going to put the little trolley wheels under the rear wheels and turn the car back into the garage. So it's on for young and old, the series champion with massive damage on the car and in pit lane.
Good job, buddy. Pitting soon, no changes to the car.
24 laps have been completed out of this 78-lap race here at the Clipsal 500. Hope you're enjoying it. Jamie Whincup's enjoying it. He's 4.1 seconds clear now at the front of Garth Tander. Rick Kelly's third, then Lee Holdsworth, then it's Winterbottom, Will Davison, Shane Van Gisbergen in seventh. Eighth belongs to Stevie Johnson, Jason Bright, then Jonathan Webb. And this pack remains to be angry, and it's still headed by Steve Owen in 12th.
And because so few people have done anything in the way of alternate strategies, it means that everybody's near at the end of their tank now. So what you're going to have in a few moments, Matt, is the whole pit lane is just going to come alive in a couple of clicks. And Russell Ingall and Greg Murphy in this vigorous battle at the moment. The chopper graphically showing how Greg was sliding off turn 7. So it's about to get very busy. And Whincup is now in. So the race leader is in.
Tander's followed him in. And so too is Rick Kelly. In fact, all the leaders are coming in.
Nice.
Of the top 7, only Will Davison has stayed out.
A little bit calm. We should smoke these guys. Breeze are done. First gear for me. Just waiting on fuel. You'll be good to go once we drop you. Nothing in pit lane that you were worried about. Holding, go. Hang on. Stop. Go.
Now they've only done rears on Jamie's car.
Watch for traffic exit.
They had time to actually get 4 on, but they want to hold them for later.
So I only did 2 on Whincup for sure. He got caught badly, but so did Tander. So Rick Kelly, I thought, was going to be the worst affected by all that clumsy getting out into the fast lane, but Garth Tander is behind. So Rick Kelly has jumped Garth in pit lane. Clearly some drama on there for Steve Johnson. Yep, here we go. We can't, because it's got damage on the left-hand rear. They've been battling to get that wheel off. Oh, now it's on the ground. You can't have this sort of stuff, guys.
Yeah. Go.
That has hurt him incredibly.
There was a lot of go, stop, go in that pit stop exchange.
So remember last year's race when we got to the critical end of it. Remember Garth climbed over the top of Jamie with the benefit of 4 tyres.
Come through the bottom of garage space. There's plenty of room. Come and stop on the mark.
And Jamie had the 2 tyres.
That's the way. Come and stop on the mark. That's it, yeah.
I suspect that Vodafone are managing their tyres so that they can do it a bit differently today. They've got 4 to fight with nicely at the end.
But Whincup has gone out in that angry pack that we spoke of before. He's actually behind Russell Ingall, which is not good in terms of car placement. This may actually be quite smart. Davison stop 1 lap later often works for you.
Well, because the next bunch of guys are all going to come in.
So rear tyres only. Now, it ended up about 12 seconds, so they actually could have done 4.
That's what I said before. There was plenty of time to do 4, but they've chosen not to, probably in the way to take the weekend view of their tyre management, and in order to be able to have the right tyres to fight with in the last segment of the race, they've chosen not to do it. Plus, the fronts are on holiday, effectively.
Exactly. Now, the interesting thing is, we just said he's gone out in that pack, but all that pack have just come in. So he's passed Russell Ingall, but the Steve Owen, Todd Kelly, Greg Murphy battle pack are all in pit lane. They've just come in and done their stop, so he's been relieved of that problem.
And it could have been a big one.
It certainly could have been. I mean, it could have been jammed in that pack for another 4 or 5 laps, so he's a little fortunate that the other guys have made that stop. He's very close to that fence there, isn't he?
Yeah, he's very aggressive there. Jason Bright is now in, Team BOC entry. And they've got 4 wheels and tyres laid up to be able to put on that car.
So there's only a couple of cars that haven't made the stop. Paul Dumbrell and Dave Reynolds are the only 2 guys at this point. As I called that, Dave Reynolds is now in. Russell Ingall, woo. Thought he was going to run past the mark there. He did a good job to pull right up.
So all 4 for Russell. And this is on Jason Bright. Oh, he hasn't put the wheel on it. He hasn't screwed. Oh, he must have.
He did. I didn't see that wheel being done up.
No.
That was weirdness all around.
I don't reckon I saw a wheel nut go. Or maybe I missed it.
I didn't see that wheel nut get tightened up.
Well, let's hope we're wrong.
Yeah,
47, short-cutting turn.
oh, yes, he has. Yeah, he has.
It was all done
good
in
job.
one fluid movement.
Well done.
Sleight of hand.
Yeah. We all looked and we thought, no way, but this is still clumsy. You can't have this stuff going in pit lane. You've basically incurred a penalty because you've made contact.
There's a little bit of tolerance permitted with that now after the modification to that rule last year by the board, but it now goes to the stewards or those in race control to make a determination as to whether they thought it was a dangerous release or not.
Fastest lap of the race now belongs to Rick Kelly.
Good job, wasn't it?
123.2.
Hey boys, I'm just interested to see, you remember Courtney came in there with that damage and he did the 3-point turn coming into pit lane. Scaife was talking about how hard it was. That big white line you see across the road is actually the start of pit lane, and you strictly can't use reverse gear in pit lane. So, geez, I'm not sure what's going to happen there.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like, I was thinking the same thing. So where you are assessed to be in pit lane, I'm not sure where that line is. We'll have a little look at it. And there's a big brake lock up for Jason Bright at turn 4. He caught the painted line, which is very easy to do, and immediately locked the wheel. Okay, let's just have a look. Where the pit lane starts is right there. So he was right at it. So Mark Larkin makes a very good point. Someone will obviously be reviewing the reverse gear selection in pit lane for James Courtney. He can't have any more drama anyway. He's already had a pit lane penalty for a jump start, or a penalty incurred for that, plus the damage going in the fence at turn 7. So it's been a horror day so far.
And without putting too fine a point, he can't go any further backwards. He's 28.
And a bad sportsmanship flag just been shown to Russell Ingall, which means he's now on his, I've lost count, is it fourth occurrence?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what happened. He crosses the line. Now he knows he can't turn any further right. So here he engages in reverse. Clearly that's in pit lane.
But again, common sense has got to prevail.
Yeah.
What do you do with the car? You've got, maybe the marshal should have pushed it back. I mean, I don't know. There was no one there.
That's an interesting one to debate, that one, isn't it? I mean,
certainly is.
What's the point of penalising him further? Jamie Whincup back to the top of the tree here at the Clipsal.
They'll get you out and then we'll keep going. Sorry, mate.
Safety car confirming 60 kilometres an hour.
Safety car confirming 88, confirming 88. There were two cars being drawn out, one car between you and 88. Should all be good. Just keep your foot on the clutch while you wait. Yeah, looks good. Brilliant, it's done. Just waiting on the fuel, you'll be good to go once I drop you. No one's in here. Good to go. Hand you over to Jeremy. Keep pushing on, catch the train. Yep, all good, thank you.
Safety car 88, car 88, maintaining 60 kilometres
Here at the Clipsal, the Pettis safety car has been deployed. Jamie Whincup is at the head of the field. Rick Kelly is second. Tander is third. And the reason for the safety car is down at turn 11, where David Reynolds has gone straight into the kiddie litter. This is how it happened. He hit the anchors hard, but still went in deep. Wanted to make a statement for his local sponsor, Stratco, but not kind of like that, especially off the back of a great performance in Abu Dhabi, fourth in race 2 for David. So these are the highlights so far. It was a great start from Garth Tander and from Rick Kelly, and that made Jamie Whincup fall off the pace. He got a little problem with those, so we'll try and rejig that a little later on. But the end result was that Whincup went down to 4th and then had to fight his way back. He did so by the way he does it all the time, posting fastest laps back to back to back. He's managed to claw his way back to the top of the field. And there's Steve Owen in pit lane.
Well, guys, everyone down in pit lane is very excited to see this guy around in the BOC garage. Jason Richards. Jace, great to see you around. And also, congratulations on your win in the Fujitsus this morning too. Everyone was cheering for you there.
Yeah, look, I did that for, it was more of a mental stimulation, and I have to say, to win the race was a absolute bonus. And well, I'm still dressed up just in case one of our drivers fatigue. You never know, do you?
Look, Jason, it's great, mate, and you know that everyone up and down pit lane and all supporters of V8 Supercars are right behind you and in your corner, mate.
They've been amazing. I mean, the whole family of V8 Supercars have been amazing. The teams have helped me financially. The drivers have got behind me through the Driver Association, and the thousands of fans, the positive energy I've got out of this weekend. That's what it was all about. It's been a tough road. Anybody who cancelled chemo knows it's a tough road, and that positive energy and just jumping in a race car and being normal for those 24 laps each day I've been doing, felt great.
We'll always get plenty of positive energy here, Jace. Great to see you here. I know all the boys are buoyed to have you around as well. Good to see you, mate.
Thanks, Brett.
Yeah, well done, Brett. And our thoughts and all of our positive thoughts are with Jason Richards. I've seen some good things in motorsport, but when he crossed the line earlier today, I was down at pit lane, and oh man,
it was unbelievable, wasn't it?
The
crowd erupted. It was just fantastic.
It'd be great to have him back full time.
Yeah, he's a great bloke, and
the view of the restart. Away they go again. So that's the order: Whincup, Kelly and Tander. The interesting one, remember that Craig Lowndes played the earliest game, came in on lap 16. And thanks to that safety car, he's back into position 10 now, so it's pretty much levelled out, if you like, in the Craig Lowndes scenario, strategy-wise. Lauren Luff was doing his best to get out of the way there, wasn't he?
He was, wasn't he? Yeah. So just to get you up to speed, as they come through turn 8.
There's always one.
How close was that? There's Lowndes on the inside of Jonathan Webb. Very good pass. That'll put him behind Van Gisbergen. That'll put him into 8th position. Now, just to get you up to speed with what Neil was referring to earlier about jumping over the curb at turn 2, Russell Ingall has 3 strikes, so has Jason Bargwanna, and so does Dave Reynolds. So those 3 guys, no more warnings. Next one is a tour through the pit lane for a pit lane penalty.
yeah, so all 3 of those guys that you've made reference to have now been shown the bad sportsmanship flag.
Jonathan Webb's been a little bit monstered there. He was rounded up by both Lowndes and Paul Dumbrell. So there's car 19 just coming through. He's in 10th spot.
That's a great shot, isn't it?
The thing that staggers me there is when you consider the loads that are going through the cars, the punch that goes through the suspension when they bottom out, and the exponential load just goes through everything, the smash. I mean, sometimes when you're in the car, you'll pop out the other side of a big curb whack like that and you have a big split through the windscreen, such as the rigidity in the cars, and the energy's got to go somewhere. But they do it for lap after lap, and it's testament to the engineering in the cars that they can do it for 250 Ks around here and take that level of pounding, because it's extreme in the cabin.
All those witness marks on the left-hand side of the wall there are the gravel rash marks of people giving that fence a bump through the weekend so far. And this one's going to get some more action too. AEG Power Tools sign on the right. Jamie Whincup's been very close. An interesting phase of the race now, because Rick Kelly did the fastest lap of the race when he came back out from his pit stop, and his speed is very impressive. They've obviously given the car a little tune-up, and as you can see there now, a 23.20 on lap 27, and he's right behind Whincup. So, as I said, sometimes there's little fluctuations in how the tuning or the car performance would be. Remember, Whincup only put 2 tyres on. Remember that.
Yeah, and at the beginning of this restart and the beginning of the race, it just takes Jamie a little while to get this rhythm back. So I suspect that there's difference in those tyre pressures, and it's just, I find it always interesting to look at the way everybody's at their car tuned to do different things at different times.
That's right.
He came on like a truck in the second half of that first stint, though, didn't he? I mean, he was blazing.
Unbelievable.
And it's a fair bet to say that Whincup and Rick Kelly will be there at the end. Jamie Whincup has finished every single race that he's done on this circuit. Rick Kelly has finished the last 16 straight since 2003. That's one thing to win this thing.
Yeah.
You've got to finish first, and it's not easy to do that.
It's a marathon, isn't it? It certainly is. Now, as we just said, here's Whincup just starting to sneak away a little bit on Rick Kelly. So the way those tyre temperatures normalise, the way that the drivers achieve the speed, and Garth Tander now looming up onto the back of the Rick Kelly mobile.
Yeah, out of this top 3 over the last couple of laps since the restart, Tander's probably looked the strongest. I mean, we've been focusing on Rick incoming, but Tander's ready to claw up on the back of car 15.
Craig Lowndes, meantime, has passed Shane van Gisbergen, so he's moved to 7th position. So Whincup from Kelly, from Tander, Lee Holdsworth, Mark Winterbottom and Will Davison, 2 teammates, 5th and 6th. Craig Lowndes, Van Gisbergen and Paul Dumbrell. Here's a little moment, and it's Garth Tander having a little look down the inside of Rick Kelly. He had to come from too far back. Ex-teammates, they're usually pretty good in terms of a bit of respect between them, in terms of, you know, the drama and normal racecraft that goes on. And a little bump of that inside curve again, Neil. We saw Jamie Whincup do that earlier in the race. You won't want to do that too many times through the day.
Lowndes, his teammate's been the fastest man so far in both the first and the second sectors in the other Team Vodafone car, and he's cleared Shane van Gisbergen. He's behind Will Davison now, Craig Lowndes, so we need to keep a bit of an eye on him as well.
Mark Dutton seems pretty happy, top left of screen, getting the rundown from Adrian Burgess, who of course was in James Courtney's corner throughout his championship year last year. A 123.17 fastest lap of the race belongs to Jamie Whincup, and when Craig Lowndes crosses, we'll see what he does. 123.02, new fastest lap of the race.
It's a funny old game, isn't it, this, as we look at these 3 cars up front here. Scafey, you talked earlier on about rhythm and how important that is, but you saw that attempted an overtaking manoeuvre there. If you don't get that done early, in a weird way, you fall into the rhythm of those around you, and then the car picks up temperature from the cars in front of it, which deteriorates your tyres, your brakes, and the way the car works. So you've really got to make that jump early, or you're really gone and you're locked into that other person's rhythm.
Exactly right, Larko. And what happens as we see Craig Lowndes has now passed Will Davison as he did that fastest lap last lap. Obviously, he's got onto the back of Will and was able to get by. But you're exactly right, Larko. Sometimes the rhythm of the race means that if you don't get the pass made, it becomes almost, it's basically follow the leader. You can't do anything about it, and the guy in front covers you well enough. So the pass is very, very critical. Jamie Whincup leading from Rick Kelly and Garth Tander.
No worries, mate. Keep up the good work.
So Garth Tander has battled very hard there with Rick Kelly and got in front of car 15.
Oh, it was close.
It was close. Whincup is our race leader.
Good job there, mate. Beautiful job. That's half distance. See if you can build a gap.
Tander into second, Kelly third, Lee Holdsworth doing a super solid job. This is the move from Garth. Now, it looked as though he would do it okay, but right here is where the argument starts and drags on for a bit. There's definite contact, and it continues, and then finally Rick goes,
well,
I can't do
because
anymore.
Rick actually got out of the throttle, which was a good decision, or the two of them would have ended up having this kind of
Michael
incident.
Caruso and James Moffat, and Russell tied up in that as well.
So it was a good decision for sure from Rick Kelly just to fan the throttle, and Garth basically forced him across towards the wall. And if he kept his foot in the throttle, you would have had the same sort of accident that Courtney and Lowndes had there a couple of years ago,
And just a little update on Courtney. We spoke about that pit lane incident where he plucked reverse gear. The stewards were onto that, and they're going to review it after the meeting. And there's a little thing they can do called force majeure, where, you know, logic would say, I mean, you can't just leave him there in the start of the pit lane and block the entry. So let's hope a little bit of common sense is applied. I think so.
Yeah, that's a good call, and opportunity to look at that later, and it wasn't a game-changing occurrence. Little bump there from Rick with Garth back down at the hairpin. When you make that kind of contact that Rick did then, which would have been unintentional, the danger is that you can bend a steering arm and then and it just upsets you to the point where all of a sudden you think, hang on, the steering wheel's no longer straight, the car isn't quite turning like you want. So you've got to be very careful of those front wheel to other thing contacts that periodically come along.
Especially when they're not really needed. You didn't really need to bump him there. So you've got to avoid that at all costs, haven't you?
Yeah, he was half having a nibble, so the intent was to try and let's see if I can get in here and repass, but it never quite got there, and you know what it's like. You know, when the steering goes off centre around one of these places, and all of a sudden the car's got some toe in on one side, it's just terrible to drive.
There is a net result too. It's a 1.2 second gain for Jamie Whincup, because his gap now back to Tander is 2.6 seconds. So while they've been arguing, Whincup has had his lead extended. We'll push in here on trading post entry, rather than Mark Winterbottom's entry. Car number 5. And Frosty's doing a typical Frosty day. In 5th spot. Trying to stay out of trouble. He's got Lee Holdsworth in front of him. They've been pretty much running a mirrored race. They haven't been involved in any scraps. They haven't moved up too far. They haven't slid back too far. You almost categorise it as a boring race from the cockpit for them. Greg Murphy.
And that's damage on the Pepsi car. In fact, he's plucked the whole side out of that. That's not good. 22.8 for Garth Tander that last lap. So at Team Vodafone, they told Jamie that Garth had got through to second, and there's probably going to be a dogfight here. So he's certainly applying some pressure. It is a 2.5 second margin, though.
And there's damage on the front of the Whincup mobile. Have a look at the right-hand front there, Neil. The right-hand front air dam as it attaches to the front fender. There's definitely damage. See the damage there?
Yeah, it's just wide, isn't it? It's we'll see it a little bit further down the lap, but here's the margin from Tander to Rick Kelly, and again you can see then Lee Holdsworth in the background. Yeah, so it's just it's unfastened off that mount on the right-hand side. The front mudguard doesn't look like it's a major, but
which will come from two things. It'll come from either running over the curb at turn 1 and 2, which he hasn't got a number against him there, or it'll come from that spot we just saw. So here's the highlights. Great start, Garth Tander. And Rick Kelly. Have a look at the Jack Daniels car. Down the inside, in front of Holdsworth. That was a really good start from those two guys.
It sure was, and of course turn 2 was always going to create some dramas, and it did so. It lit up the scoring board like a Christmas tree. Meanwhile, Jamie Whincup got rid of his driver's side mirror early down at turn 12. Fabian Coulthard decided to rustle up Russell early on, and Garth Tander was right on it, but Whincup didn't mess around. Very clean pass down at turn 9 from Jamie Whincup. That gave him the race lead. Steve Owen and Todd Kelly and co. This was a freight train that lasted quite a while, and then poor old James Courtney found the fence at turn 7 Something broke on the front left of that car as he approached turn 7 and just went in deep. Then the first round of pit stops, and Team Vodafone decided just to put rears on Jamie Whincup's car. So after all that, Whincup is the leader by 2.3 seconds from Tander.
Jason Bright's joined the group that is also about to be shown the bad sportsmanship flag for the shortcutting. I reckon if there's anywhere where, you're nodding, knowing what I'm going to say, because I reckon where Jamie's done that is on the exit of turn 11 there. Might have just brushed the tyre, because there's a little tyre barrier that protrudes from the wall. Problem for Dumbrell, and it's a broken Watts link for that car. Very unstable in the rear. Heaps of tyre smoke as the guard makes contact on that tyre. So slowly and gently back to the pit. And this will be from turn 8 for sure.
So you've got damage.
Yep.
Looks like the rear gear feeds you to go around the corner there, mate. Bring it into the garage as best as you can.
Now he...
Crew prepare the... Go, Jack, guys. If you're going, I'm going to get it in. Here we go.
That's Dave Patterson on the radio, his engineer. And remember that Paul made contact with the wall really early. We saw that right at the start of the race, and it was heavy contact. So he's either done it again, or this is a failure as a result of the weakness. Sounds you can hear in the background are the pumps continuing, gearbox and diff pumps running on the car, coolers.
Oh, there it is.
It's a second go.
Look at that for a big slide. But then he's fanned the front and hit. That's the real damage. So the first one didn't really hurt it too much. Have a look. And then he hits the back and then fires in at the front, which means the whole car ends up hitting it sideways.
If that was triggered earlier.
It's the second one.
Yeah.
So that's actually effectively 3 wipes of the wall if you count the first one in the beginning of the race. 1, 2,
That one, bang!
3.
That's the one that got it. Yeah.
So there's the one at the very beginning of the race, the second one, and then the third one. Strike 3, you're out. So that's done a lot of damage there.
So turn 8 claims another victim. This time it's Paul Dumbrell, who was the fastest qualifier earlier on today, but couldn't get it together in the shootout. Now they're trying to get it together in the garage. Back on the streets of the Clipsal 500, an event that's been running since 1999 and continues to deliver. It's a Hall of Fame event, no less. Jamie Whincup's had a great time here over the years. He's won 5 races, equal with Marcus Ambrose on the top of the Clipsal winners list. And he is again the man to catch. Tander has won 2 races here. He's in second. Rick Kelly is a former race winner here, and he's third. Now, earlier we saw Paul Dumbrell hit the wall. Now watch this. He clips the inside. This is what forces car 55. He just clipped the inside on approach there, which speared the car out wide. Now we have a safety car on the circuit. You just see it unsettle the car.
Yep.
But he's come in there pretty much sideways anyway, but just enough to unsettle car 55 and then 3 whacks at the fence. And this is why the safety car, Steve Owen, in a lot of trouble.
A lot of damage to that car.
He's turned it into a three-wheeler.
Rick Kelly straight in.
Curious to see who comes in and grabs fuel here and just how everybody plays this strategically. Steve looks like he's still in the car. Hope he's okay there, but it's plucked a wheel off.
Look at the damage.
Well, that's front and rear,
this
all over the
Here
left.
we go. Sideways, and a big hit. That is that's the heaviest hit we've seen all weekend at turn 8. A massive and left-hand rear damage. Obviously, the wheel off. Here it is from the front. Whoa. That would be around 215 or 220 kilometres an hour into the fence, sideways, bang, and then the front goes in. Wheel then detaches itself from the car and it runs down behind the car. This is another shot. He got wide from the start. He got out into the dirty part of the track and had no chance of keeping the car off the fence. Four tyres for Whincup. These are critical tyre choices now. Four tyres.
Queuing Craig Lowndes.
And Lowndes has got green tyres. Because he didn't make the shootout, he's got more tyres available. So he's going to put 4 green tyres on the car.
So most people... That's awkward for Frosty. Most people were 20-odd laps, 19, 20 laps into that fuel stint. So they've come in to take this opportunity because they'll not only top up, but they'll get a period under the safety car here now where they'll burn fuel at a much lower rate.
Sometimes, basically half, isn't it? Yeah. Basically half the fuel of a normal lap.
Which means that Will Davison's at the front of the queue. Shane Van Gisbergen is tucked in behind him. But a typical Adelaide Clipsal 500 day. Turn 8, bites again.
You put on. And better pressure. Was that car okay? I mean, obviously the lap time was a lot better, so it seems to have cleaned up. A bit better. You just put a sweep around and run it down from just around the outside of turn 8 to the exit. Ensure we picked up any debris over.
Safety car maintaining 60 kilometres an hour.
Matt, good mate, nice and clear. You can go on your job. Go, go. Good work. Reset your fuel, please, mate. Reset your fuel. Fuel's been reset.
Confirming, keep to the right through turn 8 and exit.
Back in these tyres, and that roll centre was down 2 turns, mate. That was done for you. Well, thanks for that. Just 7 tyres right now. I think Davo's just letting me pass. I don't know why. He's more than 2 laps down. Right, mate. That's correct. Good work.
another 4 or 5 laps, some of them will give it a go. They'll give it a go to try and get the 31 laps when they can only normally get 27 laps. We might see some late races slacking.
Safety car, lights out, accelerate into pit lane. Car 6, maintain speed, maintain 60.
Safety car, lights out and accelerating away from the field.
Well, the Pettis safety car has been ordered to come into pit lane at the end of this lap. Big crowd here today. In fact, the second biggest Saturday crowd in history of the Clipsal. 81,300 people here this afternoon to watch the first leg of the Clipsal 500. And that's the biggest Saturday crowd in 3 years. So over the last 3 days, we've had just under 190,000 people through the gates. Just extraordinary. Good on you, Adelaide, for backing this event to the hilt. So restart for race 3 of the championship.
And Will Davison, Shane Van Gisbergen and Greg Murphy, Stevie Johnson, they didn't elect to come in that last caution period to grab fuel. There's Jamie Whincup next, he did. But in the not too distant future, those that I've just mentioned, as we look at Stephen up the inside of Greg at turn 4 and bumps by, they are going to have to come in. They stopped, most of them I need to do a forensic and check every single one, but they came in roughly lap 25.
That's right. So we've been doing calculations. The rough numbers are, and we won't get too techo with this, but the rough numbers are about 2.75 litres a lap. With those safety car laps, if they take about 10% out of their fuel consumption in this next phase of the race, some of the lead cars can make it home if they use 2.5 litres per lap. So you're looking for 0.25 of a litre per lap to get home with this one stop. This is an ugly section of the track here with Rick Kelly and Fabian Coulthard bumping coming out of turn 9.
And as you were talking, Mark, the message to Michael Caruso, on his radio was, I want you to burn 2.52 litres per lap, and I want you to do it by rolling out on the pedal, on the throttle pedal into turn 1, 4 and 9. So there you go, we'll just share it with the class. So that's the target number for that car, and they're the 3 places that you do it, turns 1, 4 and 9. And you only need to sneak that little margin. You only need to find that tiny little margin by just coming off that throttle that tiny bit early on those 3 spots, and that could be your 250 mil of fuel per lap.
Some serious damage to car 49.
Oh, isn't there? A lot of damage there. But what it does is the stop time, effectively, even if you only come in and put 4 litres of fuel in to get you home, still is 24 seconds of track time. So they will do whatever they can to reduce their fuel consumption to avoid another stop.
James Moffat's got the lights on car 18.
There's a lot of smoke going on here. Who's
there
that?
Is
it Jason Bright's car or one of the cars further in front?
I thought it was Bright's car, but
Could be Bright or Coulthard.
hard to tell yet.
Oh, Greg Murphy's facing the wrong way. There he is. So he's gone around turn 9 and either been nudged along or spun it around. He'll have to wait for the field to go before he can make any move.
Someone gave him a hit. Yeah.
Jonathan Webb was behind him. Gar Tander was around him. And I was just about to highlight Jonathan Webb for you. He's 7th on the road, but with Davison, Van Gisbergen and Johnson still to pit.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was Jonathan Webb who did it.
So Jamie Whincup is your effective race leader. He's 4th. We expect Davison, Van Gisbergen and Johnson to have to come in soon. Here's Carl Reindler pushing up at turn 4 on Michael Caruso. And that's your job done. Gar Tander would be 2nd. These are effective placings. Remember, they're 4th, 5th and 6th. Whincup, Tander and Kelly. But they're at the top of the tree in terms of those who have pitted twice.
And just to fill in a bit more of the fuel chat, Caruso's fuel burn on the last lap was 2.8 on his dash. So his message is, I'm not going to be able to make that number.
Is that a disappointing team message? You think you come back and say, I'm sorry, I'm 0.3 out.
And that's what confounded us in Abu Dhabi when James Courtney was able to drive in such a way that he saved fuel and trimmed fuel as well by leaning out the burn and pulled that win. And it was an amazing performance, a great job.
So interesting here because Johnson will definitely have to stop. So Whincup's right behind and he has to make the pass because he doesn't want to hang around in there and have the heat soak that is generated from being right behind another car around the streets of Adelaide. It's like driving in a tunnel, and when that heat soak comes back, it makes the engine run hotter, it makes the brakes run hotter, it makes you run hotter in terms of the last segment of this race and wanting to get on with life. So this will be a pretty interesting little phase because Tander's also there and he's putting pressure on.
Look how close that is.
Oh.
So Stephen Johnson last stopped on lap 25. Green flag running, we've been saying you might be able to sneak 26 laps out of it, but there has been some safety car benefit in that process along the way. So he'll be able to stretch another couple, but here goes Jamie Whincup down the inside. Tander takes a space as well.
Tander had a little look at even going down the inside of Whincup. He had a little look at grabbing both spots.
So Garth staying in touch here with Jamie, which is important. We've seen in the first couple of stints of the race that Jamie's been able to make a conservative start at both the start and the restarts, but then maintain extremely good consistency as he goes on with it. And they're calling for Stephen Johnson next lap. Shane Van Gisbergen, he's last stopped on lap 25.
So he'll be pretty much the same,
So
won't he?
he'll be pretty much locked in step. The reason I hesitated then was that just told Caruso that we've seen enough of the numbers now over the last several laps. You're right, we're not going to make it, so they're going to change their strategy.
Have a look at the mega wall. We've got it all covered. We're in the pits with 888 with Mark Dutton and Adrian Burgess. We're in race control. We're in pit lane, and now we're on board with Russell Ingall. And right behind Russell Ingall is Todd Kelly. They've been battling all day. This is turn 8.
And we're at that phase of the race now, Mark, where as we watch Winterbottom having a look down the inside of Kelly.
Oh, it's close, wasn't
nearly,
it?
but not quite. And we're in that phase of the race where now mental and physical fatigue are issues. They've been in the car a long time. It's hot. Particularly if you're in the battle pack and it's not smooth sailing and you're both attacking and defending at the same time. Your eyes are rotating all over the place, just trying to cover every angle. Stephen Johnson has peeled out of the lead group and is now in for his second stop.
Winterbottom got a good run onto the straight, but he won't be able to get down here at turn 1. It's a very difficult passing spot.
And as Stevie Johnson comes in for his pit, you might hear he's got a new engineer working for him for this year. Greg Wheeler, a South African guy, used to work for myself. Lovely bloke. In fact, he calls himself Greg. And Greg's actually, I was having a chat to him before the show today, and he actually said that, wow, what a baptism of fire. He said this strategy stuff is so hard. It's just not about the car anymore. It's about the strategy. And it was really nice, he said, on a world scale, because he competes or engineers in a lot of championships around the world, this is absolutely right up there.
It certainly is, Mark. And as you said, this strategy battle now will be intriguing between Whincup and Tander and Rick Kelly. And some of these guys late in the race will be working very hard just to stay off the fence. And here we go. Here's Tander trying to get by Shane van Gisbergen. And he won't be very happy about this because Van Gisbergen will be coming in now. So it's cost him time. Tander's flicked the lights on. Garth will be fuming over that couple of car lengths loss compared to Whincup.
So both Will and Shane van Gisbergen in.
So now the race is normalised. We can give you a proper assessment of where we are.
So they got 30 laps out of a tank full. Not a bad effort.
Well, that may be critical to these guys because they last came in on lap 46. We're talking about the leaders, in fact, most of the field. They last came in on lap 46. So to get to the end, you're going to have to squeeze 32 laps out of your tank. Under that safety car, we could take 2 laps off that. So they're going to have to squeeze 30 laps out of their tank. If Davison and Van Gisbergen have done it, maybe these guys can do it.
Well, they've done it with the benefit of safety car. Yeah, it has, hasn't it? They've done it with the benefit of safety car, so they'll be banking on a safety car.
And this is a great point. Started 20th, Fabian Coulthard, now up to 4th. Not to mention Jason Bright, he's in 5th. Jonathan Webb is in 6th. Craig Lowndes is 7th. Then Russell Ingall, Mark Winterbottom and Todd Kelly make up the 10. And again...
Well, and the issue with all this stuff is that we're going to find ourselves, unless there's a big safety car intervention here, going all the way to the end of the race, much as we did in the Middle East, second-guessing fuel.
Exactly.
And unless you're sitting in the car or in the bunker and you know precisely, and even when you're in the bunker, I might mention with the telemetry, you're still never 100% sure about what's going on in the car. So I think it's going to be another one of those nail biters. Now, you know how you have those bad days that get worse? James Courtney has just been given a black flag pit lane drive-through penalty for shortcutting the turn 2 chicane. So some days just aren't that flash, are they?
Will Davison, the career highlight there in 2009, the Bathurst 1000 win. The highlight when he was at the Toll Holden Racing Team. Now, of course, he's the Trading Post FPR Falcon pilot.
And Dave Reynolds also, Neil, is on his 4th tour, so he'll be incurring a pit lane penalty as a consequence of that.
En route to the penalty, James did the fastest lap, that 1:22.6. He might have done it with the benefit of short-cutting turn 2, so they've obviously got reasonable pace in the car.
So this is on. This is the race.
Oh, it's on, all right.
Straight down the inside goes Tander. Very good pass.
No messing around from Garth Tander. So on lap 57 of 78, this is going to be a game of who can get the most out of the tank again. If we learn anything from Abu Dhabi, it's to expect the unexpected when it comes to fuel strategies and how much they can wring it out. But this is going to be as close as it gets.
Yeah, mate, this race is turning into one all about fuel, See if we can get 2.1.
Exactly. And that makes the job easier, Scafey, does it, for Garth Tander, because now he can control his throttle use. Therefore, he can control his fuel burn better. When he's not arguing to get the position, he can coast, if you like, for want of a better word, he can coast into the turns where he can save the fuel.
Straight away, better. These guys between the teams and their team radios, straight away though, boys, they're playing airtime chess again, you know, across the airwaves with each other. You know, the message in the Vodafone camp is, look, it's all about fuel. Garth can't keep doing that. Well, we bought that ticket when we were in Abu Dhabi.
And we did.
And we
were sold it done.
And even on the last lap, Mark Dutton was telling Jamie, don't worry about this, mate. You're going to win the race. It'll be okay, because these guys are not, you know, neither Jason Brighton or James Courtney will get there. And we bought into that, and we were wrong. So this is interesting. We're going to monitor these numbers carefully. That's a big lock-up for Fabian Coulthard. That was most likely put a mark on those front tyres.
Remember, Fabian was up there towards the end of the race in Abu Dhabi, the final race I'm talking about. Jonathan Bright obviously was there. He battled James Courtney to the end. So the same contenders are popping up here. You're going to have to deal with exactly the same thing. Conserve fuel to the end. Let's see if we've got enough to go.
Will Davison, fastest lap of the race, a 1:22.50, 19th at the moment in the trading post entry.
So when Tander was catching Whincup, Whincup was already conserving. Garth's gone past him. Now the two of them will have to conserve. This is an incredible race in not only car speed, but in fuel consumption land.
Strategy, strategy, strategy. That's what it's all about at the Clipsal 500. Welcome back. Well, this is a major incident for James Moffat, but this has bigger ramifications for the race itself. We've been talking about fuel strategies and about if the leaders can make it with the fuel that they've got in the tank. The safety car has been deployed. Let's just see what happened here first before we go further with that. So, well, James has just come in there way too heavy, and he will get collected. Oh, well, he collects Tony D'Alberto, and then smartly tries to push it up, although he's triggered a fire underneath there.
An oil fire at the front of it, but it's now stuck up on the curb.
Okay, so what that has done, what that means is that the team can now, the drivers can now conserve fuel behind the safety car, which will probably mean that they will be able to make it to the end of the race with the fuel that they've got.
Right. So every lap under the safety car, you use half the fuel of a normal lap. So this is where the calculation comes back in.
But the interesting thing here, gents, for me, is that what Garth Tander got out of the last little burst is track position.
That's right.
So, and right at the moment, now that they've had the benefit of another safety car intervention, track position's a pretty handy thing to have.
By the way, can I highlight that word probably that I used in that sentence?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, and the other thing is that we've seen so far, and the way the cars are trending this afternoon, young James Moffat removing the hands device and hot and frustrated by that. The situation with the Whincup car is it hasn't been bright and shiny right at the very beginning of the stint, so, and Tander has.
Holding. Go, straight to fast line, mate, good job.
So Jonathan Webb, Rick Kelly and Dean Fiore.
No, so
they weren't going to make it.
No, but those guys are saying we just need the fuel.
Conserve fuel. This is good. Just conserve a lot of fuel, mate.
I reckon that's the key, the word lock.
And Rick Kelly had previously come in on basically the same lap
so
as the leaders. So
they're taking the heat out of it, but you're just finishing what I was thinking.
Which is pretty normal.
Thanks. Yeah, so they've just taken themselves out of all the theory, put fuel in it, but they've sacrificed huge track position.
They have.
It may come back to them.
Somebody else who did that was Lee Holdsworth.
That's right.
Just before that incident. He decided to do a splash and go anyway.
It's going to take a little
so
while.
Holdsworth is in 13th. Rick Kelly's gone to 17th. So both those decisions are about not having to conserve fuel, and what the effective lap time will be is around a second. To conserve the fuel is about a second off.
And these fellas will be acutely aware, and Team Vodafone will be acutely aware of what happened to them in the Middle East.
Laps, and hopefully we can go to trim 2 and race and get back in front of the flock.
So what he's saying, Adrian Burgess, said we need 4 laps. I won't do the debrief on the last bit, Matt, but what he was saying is then he can get back in front of Garth Tander. But it means that you've got to have 4 laps of safety car to get home. How do you like that for a bit of deciphering?
And they're also talking about fuel trim positions, which is they're talking about air fuel ratios and how rich or lean they're running the Sucrogen ethanol E85 in these cars. So, and we know from what we saw in the Middle East that many of them are prepared to run very lean if they need to.
Just explain that to us, because I've had a few people ask me about that. You've got the knob on the steering wheel, 1 to 4, positions 1 to 4. The driver can switch it from 1 to 4. 1 is full.
Yes.
Full rich fuel.
Like qualifying lap.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then they can just turn it down to 4, as lean as you can.
Which is up to 20% better fuel economy. And what that does is it makes the engine run hotter. And what Neil's saying is that teams are prepared to run the engine so lean that they will actually destroy the engine, but it doesn't matter because you've got a result.
So I guess the big question now is how many safety car laps will
Look
there
at the
be?
boys. Look at Alistair. And they need 4 laps, Matt. And Alistair and Jason Bush are doing calculations. Bryce in the background saying, are we across this?
You reckon it's hard for the drivers here?
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's hot in the cockpit, but they've got smoke coming out of the calculators in pit lane. All right, let's do a recap from the very start of this race. Some 1 hour and a half ago worth of racing, and it was a great start from both Rick Kelly and Garth Tander. Lee Holdsworth went with them. The biggest loser out of that little exchange was Jamie Whincup from the front row of the grid back to 4th. It was a pretty lively start too. Whincup's been taking it wide down at turn 12 all day. Fabian Coulthard and Russell Ingall came together. And this was where the liveliness came in, because these guys traded blows straight away, straight out. Whincup fought his way back up to behind Garth Tander and then took the position down at the A-grade spot of turn 9. Steve Owen, Todd Kelly, Greg Murphy. That was a great battle along there. James Courtney didn't have a fun day at all. In fact, it's gone from bad to worse, and that was the trigger point of what happened to him at turn 7. Went into the wall hard, something broke on the front left of that car. He had to grab reverse to get into pit lane. First round of pit stops for these guys. Jamie Whincup took place on lap 25. They decided to do rears only. And after having his battles with Whincup, Tander found his battles with Rick Kelly, who's been incredibly solid, but now sits down in 16th spot after having to come into pit lane under the safety car. It didn't take long for turn 8 to start claiming victims. Paul Dumbrell was the first. He'd already hit that before. And then the big one, really big one, of Steve Owen. It plucked the front left wheel off. There it goes. And Paul ended up getting chased by the Dunlop down towards turn 9. He's okay. He's out of the car. The car is a different story. It's a complete and utter mess. It's like it had a homing device on it. Found its driver, that missing wheel. And this has been the story. I mean, check out how many times these guys have crossed paths throughout the 60 laps that we've had so far. Whincup and Tander, Tander and Whincup, Whincup and Tander, and then this is The event involving James Moffat spins it around at turn 9, collects Tony D'Alberto, who's in a Ford for the first time this weekend. Starts cooking in car 18, and that's hard work for the rookie.
Another thing worth considering here, and just to reiterate this point, that all the fuel discussions that are going to go on up and down the pit lane and in the commentary box here, the car that's best positioned with plenty of fuel in this group of cars out there at the moment is Lee Holdsworth, position 12. He's the first in the queue with fuel, and Mark made the point before that Rick Kelly has done that as well, and so Stephen Johnson.
So let's take a break and see how this final phase of race 3 unfolds. Well, the Clipsal world looks a calm place at the moment as we check out the scene on the mega wall. Not much action on the track. Pit lane's relatively calm. Over there at turn 8, they're not zipping around here at 245. But let me tell you, it's about to get really ugly. It's going to be a dash to the end. 15-lap sprint it will be, because they're still removing car 18 from turn 9. And it's just going to be a charge to the finish. The big question remains, who's got enough fuel to do it?
There's been some issue apparently with the winch and the flat top truck there. So every one of these laps that's currently ticking away under the safety car is giving those at the front of the field more validation that they'll be able to get on and race all the way to the end. It's letting them off the hook, basically.
And one of the little things experience buys you, and let's face it, Jamie Whincup's got plenty of it. You said that he knew he needed to get 4 laps under safety car. One of the things you do is you have a look at the incident. He would have looked at that James Moffat car and made a pretty quick assessment. Yeah, I reckon we'll get 4 laps out of this. What was really clever is that he knew the winch was going to break on the truck. That's a ripper.
Oh, Larko, you're good. You lunatic.
And the trick is in these safety car periods to pluck the highest possible gear. Don't fan the throttle, hold very low, light throttle percentages and just roll around as best you can.
So let me run you through the order. Garth Tander first, Jamie Whincup second, then Jason Bright, Fabian Coulthard, Russell Ingall top 5. 6 belongs to Craig Lowndes. Position 7 is Mark Winterbottom. Then it's Todd Kelly, Tim Slade, Jason Bargwanna inside the top 10. It's quite remarkable, however, of course, the last 15 laps, that top 10 has changed dramatically. The back end of it has changed dramatically. Carl Reindler is 11th. Lee Holdsworth is 12th, but he's definitely got enough fuel because he came in just as the incident happened for a splash and go. So he can sprint to the finish. He can let it all hang out. Will Davison behind him. Same with Shane Van Gisbergen, then Stephen Johnson in 15th, and Rick Kelly, Jonathan Webb, Greg Murphy. So Rick Kelly in 16th position is in exactly the same boat as Lee Holdsworth, Will Davison and Shane Van Gisbergen. They've all got enough fuel. They came in on time.
Matty, there's a lot of calculation, a lot of concentration going on at Team Vodafone. Mark Dutton, what's the situation with fuel?
We're all good at this stage, yeah. So obviously this safety car saved everyone. It was very tight. We were going to make it without the safety car. Jamie was conserving enough, but now with this safety car, it should be a good race to the end because everyone can go back to trim position 1, full power, full juice, and go hard.
Let it loose. Good luck,
brother.
All right. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? So if the leaders can do it, then everybody else can do it. Full trim, go flat, stick.
And the key to it's been the fact that this was a delayed pickup, so that's kind of changed the game a little bit. But that means that Jason Bright's up for a potentially strong run again, 2 race meetings in a row in the 2011 season. However, he's got 3 strikes against him down at turn 2. So in the aggressive, let's get on with it mode that they all need to get into now for this final sprint to the flag, he's got to be, of the key cars at the front, Russell Ingall's in that group as well. He's got to be super careful because if he steps too far to the right of that turn 2 curbing, he'll end up with a pit lane drive-through penalty. And right now is when you need that aggressive, opportunistic driving that use every bit of the road. So who doesn't have a penalty? It's interesting. Both the Team Vodafone guys have got 0s against them, so they can actually afford to jump over the curb a bit and get away with it.
So many amazing stories to tell, still to unfold here at the Clipsal. Adelaide's turned on a perler for this one, and we've been in a holding pattern for a while, but it's going to make for a very juicy finish. So many subplots here. Can Garth Tander get the race win? Can Jamie Whincup get past him and become the winningest driver of all time on this circuit? He's currently equal first with Marcus Ambrose. Jason Bright came so close in Abu Dhabi to getting Team BOC's first ever victory. Fabian Coulthard in fourth, yet to win a V8 race. Russell Ingall in fifth.
We've got another issue here, Matty. The safety car's not reading race control at the moment. The race director's calling them. And I think everybody expected the safety car in that lap, and it hasn't happened. Yeah, so there must be a comms issue there at the moment. Just going back to the remark before we went to the break, for the fellas in both the Team Vodafone cars, just to underscore that little point there, by not having made any mistakes across the turn 2 curbing at this point in the race, they've got credits. And why would that be important? Well, if you straight line the curb at turn 2, it gives you faster corner exit speed. Goes back to our little track piece earlier on. That gives you a rush up to turn 4, which is one of the passing spots on the track. I tell you what, I wouldn't mind going into the back end of this race with 3 credits up my sleeve, because I reckon you could convert that into a passing opportunity.
No doubt.
Well, this man, for instance, the enforcer has 3 strikes against his name, so he's going to have to play it safe. But it's worth looking at Russell Ingall right now, not only for the fact that he's inside the top 5, not only for the fact that he's a South Australian boy at heart. His father, Les, passed away just a couple of weeks ago. This will be a really emotional day. It's been an emotional homecoming for him. He hasn't won a V8 supercar race since 2005. And we knew he was going to go hard because that's Russell's way. We knew he'd go a bit extra harder this weekend because of all that has gone on around him. And that would be something else if he could push another 4 spots up the grid in what will effectively be 11 laps of racing.
One thing you can never doubt is Russell's ability to race. You know, I just looked for where he qualified again, and just to reiterate that point, 22nd. Where is he now? 5th. You know, I mean, he just does a very, very good job of just clawing his way back up. If only he could get the qualifying thing nailed.
Yeah, well, if you look at that one pole position in all those races, means that he has always probably started a little bit too far back. And what you said is his racing quality, his never say die tenacity has really been the cornerstone of his racing career.
And he's not terribly far away. It won't be very many races down the road where Russell has achieved 500 V8 Supercar and related Australian Touring Car Championship starts, and it's an amazing milestone and brilliant career.
This is his 449th race start in his
big number,
in his 192nd championship weekend. I mean, wow, that's a long.
So Garth Tander is going to lead them away. This restart will be critical. Whincup will want to be right behind him. Jason Bright's got 3 strikes. Coulthard's got 2 strikes. Ingall's got 3 strikes. And then there's Craig Lowndes. Don't discount him.
So the restart's critical, and turn 2 curb is absolutely critical for a handful of these guys.
Jamie's too far back.
Yeah, that's an excellent margin as they start already for Garth Tander.
Massive.
Tander and Whincup have dominated the Clipsal 500 the last 3 years. They've got a very hungry and angry pack chasing them down. It's going to be an 11-lap sprint to the finish. Who's got it? Who wants it? Who will get it?
And with such a prolonged safety car period, Matt, all the tyre temperature will have come out of these cars. For the first 2 laps of the restart, the cars will move around everywhere. That's why they're all sliding. There's no tyre temperature.
Yeah, or pressure. And so the cars will roll around on those tyres. Brakes will feel pretty weird as well.
That was the view from Mark Winterbottom, who's tucked in behind Craig Lowndes in 7th. could have been a better day for Mark Winterbottom, but he's been made to pay for being stalled up in pit lane. Down to turn 8. Lowndes has a good look, a really big look. He comes up alongside Ingle. Lowndes goes up to 5th.
And Winterbottom's into the back of Ingle there. Fabian Coulthard just up above the top of shot in front of Craig Lowndes. So the next victim will be Coulthard, is the way Lowndes will be looking at it.
Remember, Lowndes had better tyres. He had green tyres to put on. So he's got some pretty good rubber. 10 to go. Some of them have to tippy-toe their way through there. A lock-up for Fabian. Craig Lowndes strikes again. 2 positions in the space of what is effectively half a lap around here. Lowndes goes up to 4th. Tander has the lead from Whincup, then Jason Bright. Then it's Lowndes, then Coulthard, then Ingle. Winterbottom looks as though he's ready to pounce on the super cheap car.
A mistake there for Lowndes, so that'll let Fabian have a look at him again as they make the run down to 8. He's covering him, and Whincup's a little bit closer to the back of Tander now too.
He's right up on him now. Whincup's made ground. As Ingle's down the inside of Coulthard, they have a little bumping duel. They'll bump all the way down now to turn 11.
They've been doing it all day, Scafie. That was Russell's chance to get square with Fabian, but it didn't work that time. So clearly Fabian Coulthard and Russell are the corks in the bottle.
This pattern repeating again, where after a couple of laps for temperatures and pressures to normalise in Jamie's car, he gets back at Garth Tander, so this is going to be a big one.
Ingle in defence. That's at turn 14. That's a big incident.
And will probably trigger a safety car, I imagine, in that position.
He was right in it.
Well, he had that awkward run down at 9 with Fabian. He had Mark Winterbottom behind him.
That's right. That's a big incident. He's come off the fast curb at turn 14 and has gone in the fence on the left-hand side before... Look at that. That's gone straight through.
Still haven't heard anything from race control on this, and there's no sign of flags just at the moment.
So that's turn 13.
Flag, safety car boards and flag, safety car standby. Safety car, we've got a car off at turn 13 left-hand side, just standby.
That's just absolutely heartbreaking.
Oh, and damage to the front.
Right. So there you go, the front left of Craig Lowndes.
Whincup.
Whincup.
It's Jamie.
It is Whincup.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe Lowndes had been in contact there with Russell Ingle.
But he may have had a dive before the safety car come out. He may have had a dive at Tander. For sure, he's got to have had a dive, or he's caught those tyres at turn 1. Here we go. This is the tyre damage. Bang. That's the spot.
Okay, so that explains to us what happened, or what's happened to Jamie Whincup. This will explain what happened to Russell Ingle.
It's a steering arm failure. Steering arm failure has not turned. It's gone straight into the fence, has not turned right at turn 13. That car did not even deviate direction. That is a big hit.
Steering or a puncture?
Well, I think it just isn't. It just didn't turn. It's got 210 kilometres an hour almost. That's a severe crash.
See, it's been a tough day for those guys from Paul Morris Motorsport, with the Steve Owen car damaged and now the Russell Ingle car damaged, so they've got a lot of work ahead of them.
Absolutely right about that. Can this get any wilder? This race always chucks everything up, doesn't it? Lap 70, safety car out.
You want the short answer to that?
Yeah.
Yes, it can. It can get weirder, and I'll tell you why. Because there's a 130-minute race duration time on this race. And they're more than likely not going to make it.
Here we go. This is the damage for sure. That's the left-hand front damage, and you can see the sparks come off as they've hit wheel to wheel. So the Coulthard-Ingle damage was incurred there at turn 9. You don't have to use the left-hand front of the car very much, because the next one, the left-hand front tyre, is a passenger. And have a look now at the left-hand front. When he goes to turn right, the car just disappears straight off. No steering at all. So the damage, he wouldn't have even felt that. Russell would have no feeling for that at all. As soon as he goes to turn the wheel, he's locked the brakes, but straight in the fence. Tragic way for him to finish. He was very strong. He was in 5th position. And as I said, that's a very big incident. That's over 200 kilometres an hour. Probably took 20 or 30 kilometres off that as he come off the track.
I saw the contact down there at 9, but I didn't think it was as much as when we saw it from that low shot. It actually illustrates that it was a fair bit more than just a little brush by. They actually made reasonable contact down there. So it's,
well, you said it earlier today with the Rick Kelly one.
Yeah.
When you do have those wheel-to-wheel contacts, there's a lot of force, isn't there?
A lot of force and a lot of risk. In some respects, you never like to see an incident. Leanne Tander there. Russell's lucky that where he did go off, where it has failed, whatever it was that tipped him in, has tipped him into the tyres. I can think of a lot worse spots around here where you could fire in at high speed, so he's probably a little bit thankful. That'll teach you to do such product placement, Adrian.
Exactly.
Yeah. The solo man to a new level.
Yeah, that's right.
He's got to go to acting school a bit better for that.
Shocking performance.
Fall for that one, Adrian.
So look, if we once we get all this sorted and we go racing again, this is going to be a very, very interesting battle with the dislodged front bumper and front wing effectively on the Whincup car. What impact will that have? He was chasing down Tander as the temps and pressures had come up on his tyre set, and his car seemed to be getting stronger again relative to Garth. But we're running out of laps in this race, so you know we'll go through the same cycle. It'll take a couple of laps for Jamie to get his stride back. It might let Garth off the hook.
Well, and it was a bad restart too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, he lost 3 or 4 car lengths. Tander's restart was very good. Whincup's was very average, so he will want to rectify that at the next restart.
They're only going to have a couple of laps at it. They're only going to have a couple of full-blown laps at it.
That's right.
Because they're now racing the clock.
And Lowndes will be red hot on Bright to get onto the podium. So Fabian Coulthard's done a very good job to be 5th. Mark Winterbottom 6th. Todd Kelly, Tim Slade, Jason Bargwanna and Lee Holdsworth. That's your top 10.
So, Scafie, how do you attack this mentally, knowing that you're really only going to have probably 2 laps full-blown racing at it? If you're Garth, I mean, you're out in front, so it's pretty clear you want to stay there. If you're Jamie, do you want to take a dive at him at the earliest opportunity, or do you want to try and set it up knowing that the clock's ticking? And if you're Jason Bright, when you came so close in Abu Dhabi, you're coming here with a massive amount of confidence. What I'm asking is, do you look for points, or do you look for the top of the podium?
No, you win this race, Matt. You have... For Jamie Whincup, he will have a very small window of opportunity because Garth Tander will quickly block. And if he gets into the blocking regime, Whincup will not get by. So Jamie will have to have a dive. And let me tell you, Garth won't be as nice as he was earlier in the race.
Right. And Garth's trying to string together 3 on the run here. 2 race wins last year. In the box seat this year. And see, listen to Jamie work that throttle now. There's no worries about fuel conservation, working the tyres, working the brakes. You can hear him squealing in the background, so he's dragging the brake. Staying right up with him. Look at him. He'll read the part number on the diff housing from where he is at the moment. He's all over him.
Here we go. So Tander's done a good job again. He's got to make the apex. So much better restart that time.
Still gapped him.
Yep, absolutely.
Jamie wanted to stay close, but couldn't at that time because Tander was just too smart for him. So there's still smoke coming out of the side of car 88, where the guard is rubbing on the front left tyre.
Oh, look behind. Here's Lowndes.
Yeah, and Bright was a wake-up, and so he covered very aggressively into turn 4.
That's experience against experience right there. Bright versus Lowndes.
And Winterbottom's looking for a way as well. He's got Fabian Coulthard well and truly in the crosshairs there at the moment.
Race control saying 2 laps remaining.
They've got to get there first. This is nervous energy being thrown all about the place before they can really get back to the job at hand, and Craig Lowndes went as close as you want to go.
Lowndes without anything left on the left side of the car, and he pokes it down the inside of Bright. They give each other space. He won't be able to round him up on the outside at turn 10. And that was wild stuff on a lap where you're still waiting for tyres to come back to full temperature and pressure. And the first two cars have, look at the margin, they've bolted from third and fourth. It looks like Lowndes has got great pace.
And stay tuned for this, because Lowndes will want to get a run through this first chicane to get up the inside into turn 4.
And can do so, because he's got no strikes against his name at turn 2.
He can afford to go straight through here if he wants. He's not going to.
And he has a crack at it. He has a crack. He'll look again up here at turn 4. Brighty will drive in the gutter. Does he leave a bit of space? He does. In fact, I'm surprised how much he left in the end. So Lowndes to third. He's on the podium.
Bright still wants to buy back into this argument. Lowndes is not having any of it. Two old campaigners, two former Clipsal champions. Bright slides around there. He's holding on to this Team BOC car like never before, but he can't shake Craig Lowndes. Tander's out in front. Whincup is second. You're looking at third.
Look for Whincup down the inside, because he will not give this up. Right behind Tander, and it's still on behind Bright with Winterbottom. Now they're all vying for this spot. That's Johnson, Davison, and look how close he is.
So this is exactly what we've seen all race. Initially, Tander with a great jump, and then Whincup, when the car settles down, is super strong. He's right there, and he gives him a nudge at 14. It's game on the run to turn 1, and he gives him one back. So Tander returns serve.
Just about pushed him into pit wall the way they were going. Flat out through turns 1 and 2. Now round 3. Tander's holding on. Whincup very aggressive on the inside up at 4. Won't have a look this time. And the bumps unsettled the car.
And what Tander did was braking as though he was on a qualifying lap, but did it on the race line, so he kept the fast momentum up. That was an interesting exchange. That was Whincup giving Tander one at turn 14, and Tander immediately snapped back and gave him another in the straight line.
Here we go. Tander ran wide on the way out of 7. This is on down at the hairpin.
Maximum speed, 245 clicks an hour. Down to turn 8.
Garth's car just got loose in the middle of 8 then. But signals from both of them, for me, that they're prepared to take it to the brink.
This is as good as it gets.
Garth Tander's won here twice on this circuit. Jamie Whincup has won 5 times, but never in a Holden.
He's dropped back.
He's pulled back out of it. He's pulled back out of it.
Lowndes is locking on to a podium spot.
Yeah, mate, time limit's up. This should be the last lap.
There's quite a lot of radio chat there from Mark Dutton, but there's so much on the radio at the moment, I missed it. But I reckon it's half a chance, as we're on the final lap, it's half a chance that they may have said to Whincup, let's just get some points here. Because this, even though we're very early in a championship, is an important bundle of points for Whincup, because remember, Tander's a long way back in the championship at the moment. Clipsal 500 winners are about the whole weekend.
This is a very important number coming up for Garth Tander in terms of race wins. He's won 47 races in his career. If he can hold off Jamie Whincup here, he goes to 48 race wins. That's equal third all time with Peter Brock. Numbers are for the history books. Right now, he's thinking about the end of this lap, the end of this race, the top spot on the podium, fighting off Jamie Whincup, who undoubtedly over the last 3 or 4 years has been the king of Clipsal. Last year, Garth Tander came here and did a clean sweep on the weekend. Boy, this has been a tough fight. It's been a really tough fight. And it's a knockout blow for Tander. What a battle. Whincup second, Craig Lowndes third. Jason Bright fourth.
What a race. What a race.
The celebrations at both Team Vodafone and Toll HRT. HRT celebrate the race win. Team Vodafone celebrate the other spots on the podium. Jason Bright's start to this year has been nothing short of stellar. Fabian Coulthard inside the top 5. Tim Slade, another good performance, and also great to see Jason Bargwanna into the top 10. Rick Kelly had to play a different strategy game. Could have been so much better, but 12th is where he finished. Lee Holdsworth in 20th, and Paul Dumbrell, James Moffat and Steve Owen, the victims. James Courtney ends up in 25th position.